Go, Haxplixel. I hope everything is still visible on the screen.
Story of the user. The user played games. The user's existence was simple. They played boring games every day and followed these games' instructions to the letter. And while some people may have found this hobby unbearable, the user loved it. Then one day, when playing Breakout, something strange happened. The user found that this boring game had something not so boring. It had a narrator with an amazing voice. This would have extraordinary consequences. They were shocked, but somehow managed to keep playing. This is quite odd, the user thought. Breakout is usually boring, but they decided to play on and try to let the boredom sink in.
Wait, why is Breakout boring?
But it didn't. Yet they kept playing. Yet, not really believing that Breakout of all things could be interesting, they kept playing. The user just kept playing. After playing for a while, the user was stunned to find any indication that they were bored. To not find any indication that they were bored. The user wondered who could have done such a horrible thing. What did they not know? What they could not have known was that if they kept playing, they would discover the horrible thing the game had been keeping from them. But of course, they couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, they kept playing. Amazing. They continued to destroy the bricks. As the user kept playing, they felt very strange, as if they had done something horrible, and they began to feel sick. They had begun to question why were they enjoying this game of Breakout so much. They'd find out soon enough. They kept playing. They began to realize something horrible. But
Stanley Parable?
To deal with it. Now they realized why they felt sick. The true nature of the bricks was revealed. Each one was like a person.
Oh.
They had families, children, and other bricks who loved them dearly. And the user had just been enjoying murdering them. What the user had not was what the user had done was horrible. Too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had the user been killing the bricks this whole time? Was the reason they enjoyed it simply that they were sadistic? He had blindly enjoyed it. No, he couldn't have. Murder? It wasn't true. It wasn't possible. Had they truly spent the entire game killing? But the narrator made them believe it, and they decided this would never happen again. They would shut the game down. They knew it was their duty to end this genocide of bricks. But if they shut it down, what would they do? Their existence would be pointless. But they reflected on all the questions about the game they had. How were the bricks alive? Why had they enjoyed killing them? But they realized it was not knowledge or power they had been seeking, but happiness. Because now they didn't want to understand. They only wanted to let go. No longer would they kill bricks. They would live life out in the real world. And that's all they wanted. They began to shut it down and go outside. They began to feel the sunshine on their face.
I refuse. It's already midnight.
It would be great. And the user.
Well, approaching midnight.
This is the story of the user. The user played games. The user's existence was simple. They played boring games every day.
Oh, it's on a loop.
Games instructions.
Okay. Well, that was a fairly short game. I'm reminded of the first Super Mario Brothers, where if you read the manual carefully, it explains that each and every, basically all the toads has been turned into blocks, and only Peach could save the world, or only Peach could save the world apparently due to her magical powers. And if you haven't actually read the manual, then you're like, oh, okay, but then when you actually read the manual, you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to break any of these blocks, or else I just kill a lot of citizens. So that's kind of like what I'm reminded of when playing this. It's a nice attempt. Meh. For me, it's like a really meh kind of thing. There's also the fact that the delivery left a lot to be desired. Yes, I know you only had an hour, so I commend you for being able to pull that off. But um, the plot twist more or less came, and I wasn't in particular surprised. I did feel like I was being talked to, and if that was kind of intentional, like this very Stanley Parable sort of intentional narrative, then good job. I didn't quite feel anything as a consequence of it, though. Um, eh. Still, it was an interesting take on the theme, so I guess we'll actually talk about this here. Innovation. Um, 2 stars. One more extra star for actually trying to add a narrative to a game that clearly doesn't have any. To be fair, I do think Arachnoid did have a narrative, but we're not going to get there. It was an attempt at trying to be experimental while using a previously existing formula, and I actually genuinely do appreciate doing that. I actually had a decent amount of fun, but that's Breakout. Sorry to leave your stream empty, Taro, but I think I'm going to head out. Should you try to get some sleep tonight? Thanks for streaming Last Name Games, and thanks for making the game. I had a lot of fun with that. Theme. I kind of liked it. I kind of like this interpretation of the theme. Graphics, well, yeah, the graphics is non-existent. The audio could be improved, so that's about like average there. Arguably there was humor. I don't know, I kind of find it a little amusing with how the narrative went, and the the mood is kind of non-existent to me. I mean, I want to give a higher star just because the person was able to get a game done in 1 hour, and that in and of itself is an impressive feat. But at the same time, it just felt like, I don't know, after playing it, I just didn't quite see the point of the added narrative to the game in and of itself. So, I mean, I know that the user was not expecting the best of the best scores, but I do actually want to give higher scores because it is a very, like, given the time constraint, it is actually quite interesting how the creator was experimenting on a specific idea, if out of practicality, then for the pure intent of actual experimentation. But yeah, at least in my mind, I don't really see anything distinct about the game that makes it deserve more stars than that. Then again, I've given 2 stars for games that was far worse, so fair enough. For some reason, I found the narrative to be really funny. Funny. It reminds me of the original Super Mario Brothers, where according to the manual, all the blocks are actually codes encased from an evil spell by Bowser. The game had an interesting Stanley Parable vibe to it, especially since the narrator kept insisting on the player to stop playing the game. there were some reward for listening through the entire narrative. So that was neat. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, that we have